Hello, my Biblio darlings, and welcome to Bibliothesia. My name is Mally, and Bibliothesia is where I bring stories to life through storytelling. Well, the story that I'm going to be reading today is called The Small Bowl of Rice. But before I get to the story, let's remind our bodies that we're safe right here and right now, and we're going to do that through two different exercises. The first one is called a 4-4-8 deep breathing exercise. And the second exercise is called, it's not called anything, it's where I share some knock-knock jokes with you. So let's do the first exercise, and it's called the 4-4-8 deep breathing exercise. And what's going to happen is you're going to inhale deeply for 4 counts, or 4 breaths. Then you're going to hold the breath for 4 counts, and then you're going to exhale out for 8 breaths. So with that, pretend you have a balloon inside your tummy, and when we do the inhale, you're going to make your pretend balloon bigger and bigger and bigger. So are you ready? Inhale deeply for 1, 2, 3, 4. And now hold the breath for And now exhale out the breath like you're blowing out wind or birthday candles. Oh, that deep breathing exercise always makes me feel so much more relaxed. And I also burp sometimes after after I do the deep breathing exercise. And it came. And I'm going to put out the invitation here for you that over the next 30 days, right after you wake up in the morning, please do the same 4-4-8 deep breathing exercise. And then at lunchtime, do it again. And just before you go to sleep, do it again. And do it for the next 30 days. And let me know if your body feels calmer after that. Well, I'm going to reach over and pick up the joke book. And pardon me, my nose is itchy. So here are the 3 knock-knock jokes for today. Knock, knock. Who's there? Waiter. Waiter who? Waiter second while I tie my shoe. Instead of waiter, it's wait a minute while I tie my shoe, or wait a second. That's great. Well, here's the next joke. Knock, knock. Who's there? Voodoo. Voodoo who? Who do you think you are? Oh, that's funny. Like, who do you think you are? And here's the third one. Knock, knock. Who's there? Waddle. Waddle who? What'll you do when you run out of cookies? What do you do when you run out of cookies? But you know, whenever I hear the word waddle, I always want to do this. Waddle, 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 waddle. Would you like to do it with me? Okay, let's do it together. Waddle, 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 waddle. Oh, that's kind of fun to do as well. All right, so I'm hoping you're feeling more relaxed with the deep breathing exercise, with a joke, and the waddle, 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 waddle. So with that, let me read for you the story called The Small Bowl of Rice. And let's look at the picture. It looks like there are 2 men, and they're standing around a dining table. And it looks like there's a big bowl, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think it's rice. And it looks like the rice is being scooped into 2 smaller bowls. And it looks like the one person has his hand on his heart, and he's being very appreciative of the food that is being given to him. And it looks like there's a fire in the room, so it's really nice and cozy, warm. And there's different pots and dishes hanging up on the wall. And it looks like there is a house in the background. Oh, and look at that. It looks like there are 2 dogs, and they're eating the rice. And the brown dog, the bigger dog, is looking up at the gray dog. So I'm not sure if he's not had food or rice ever before. So let's read the story of The Small Bowl of Rice. Relax, be very still, and listen. Listen carefully to this tale about a miser who lived in a big mansion at the top of a lonely hill. I'm pausing the story. I'm wondering if that is his mansion at the top of the hill. Let's get back to the story. One day something happened that was to change his life forever. Do you want to know what it was? Let's see if we can find out. Now, the miser's mansion was very old, big, and drafty. And drafty means it's cold, that wind goes through it. He lived there alone, apart from a few servants and a dog whom he hadn't even bothered to name. The miser slept and ate in one of the mansion's many towers, and spent his days counting and recounting his gold. He loved gold more than anything in the world. He never shared or even spent it. And he was renowned, or well known, for being the meanest man there ever was. He was so mean that he had never invited anyone to his house, nor ever given anyone a present. In fact, he only went out once a year for fear of spending money. And on this day, he would travel in a grand carriage with his dog and a servant to collect taxes from the poor peasants who farmed his lands. One year, he was returning home after a very successful day collecting taxes. Night was falling, and as he hugged his large sack of gold, his carriage was suddenly stopped by robbers. "Help!" he shouted, but it was no use. The robbers stripped the miser of his clothes, made him put on rags, and took him and his dog far out into the countryside, where they left them with no food or water. The miser was very shaken up by this turn of events, and shouted at the little dog, whom he had never bothered to give a name, for not attacking the robbers. It was getting dark, and they were completely lost. What despairing means is being full of fear. He crawled under a hedge and cried himself to sleep, thinking of his stolen gold. The little dog curled up in a ball nearby. The next day he woke up feeling cold, sore, and hungry. He set off with the dog in search of a village, walking and walking until eventually they came to a road, although they still saw no one. After walking all day without food, the miser felt desperately hungry and sorry for himself. Then all of a sudden his dog barked and ran off. The miser followed him, only to find a lone little cottage surrounded by wild rose bushes. He saw white smoke rising from its chimney. Encouraged, he knocked on the door. But suddenly he hesitated, which means he kind of didn't knock, remembering with shame how he had always sent away anyone who had knocked on his own door for help. Why should anyone want to help a man dressed in rags such as himself? He was just about to leave when a cheerful voice called, "Who's there?" Relieved, the miser replied humbly, "I'm sorry to disturb you, but I'm lost and hungry. Could you please spare my dog and I some food? And would there be any chance of letting us sleep somewhere warm?" asked the miser. "Of course," replied the friendly voice. "Come in." So the miser went in, and the dog followed. The room was quite bare. There were only a few pieces of old furniture and no curtains on the windows. But there was a small fire in the hearth. And a hearth is where people make their fires. Sitting at a table was a kind-looking man, and by his side a brown dog wagged his tail and grinned. The man got up from the table and laughed heartily. "It's a poor lost soul, Archie," he told his dog, "and he's brought you a new friend. Come in and sit down," he said, turning to the miser. "Welcome to my feast. Tonight we have a banquet of delicious rice," he joked. The man went to a shelf and took down 2 small bowls. "We'll have to share this rice. It's all I have, I'm afraid," he added, "and your dog can share Archie's." Saying this, he put some rice in Archie's large bowl for the 2 dogs, and divided the rest between the 2 small bowls for himself and the miser, who couldn't believe the man's generosity. How could he be so poor and yet so happy? The miser thought of his gold, his servants, and his mansion. But despite all these possessions, he had never been as happy as this man who had so little. He was filled with guilt and shame for his miserly behavior over the years. Soon his hunger brought him back to the present, and he he ate his rice. He ate it greedily, thinking how nothing had ever tasted so delicious. Soon the miser was infected by the warmth of the kind man's heart and found himself confiding in him about how he had been robbed. The man listened intently, and when the miser had finished, he said, "Your story makes me sad. You have so much, yet your life is so lonely and empty." Then he gave the miser his sleeping spot in front of the fire, said good night, and lay down on the floor to get a good night's sleep. The miser was so moved by his kindness and so grateful for it that as he lay awake in front of the fire thinking about what had happened, his mean heart began to melt. Aw! Tears streamed down his cheeks, for now he saw how terrible his life really was. He reached out to his dog and patted him for the first time ever, and he resolved to repay the man's generosity 1,000-fold, or 1,000 times. The next morning when he woke, he invited the poor man and his dog to come and live with him in his mansion, an offer which they gladly accepted. Without delay, they all set off for the miser's home. And so it was that from that day forward the miser changed his ways. He and the poor man became the best of friends, living happily together with Archie and Mary, as he named his dog, who flourished with a newfound attention. No one was ever again turned away empty-handed from the mansion on the hill, and instead of collecting taxes, the miser used his gold to improve the lives of local people. Twice a year he even held feasts for his neighbors and parties for the children, which were so enjoyable that they became the talk of the land. Oh, so beautiful. So what is the lesson or what is the lesson or the moral of the story? Greed and selfishness spoil things for everyone. A wise person realizes that the way to true happiness is through sharing whatever they have, no matter how little that may be. Oh, what a beautiful story. It's all about, like one of the jokes, that sharing is caring. Oh, that is beautiful. It makes me feel all warm and happy inside. And so when we feel happy and warm on the inside, it means that our body's more relaxed. So let's do that deep breathing exercise that we did at the beginning today. Are you ready? Let's inhale deeply for 1, 2, 3, 4. And now let's hold the breath for And now let's exhale out the breath like we're blowing out birthday candles or we're blowing out wind. Oh, I don't know about you, but that deep breathing exercise always brings me back to the present moment in such a beautiful, mindful way. Now let me read you some jokes as I reach for my joke book. Here's the first joke. Knock, knock. Who's there? Wallace. Wallace who? Wallace painted bright yellow in my room. Oh, the wall is painted bright yellow in my room. Here's the second joke. Knock, knock. Who's there? Radish. Radish who? Radish, my favorite color. Radish, my favorite color. Oh, red is my favorite color. Okay. And let's read the next one. Knock, knock. Who's there? Sam. Sam who? Sam, person who knocked on your door last time. Oh, not Sam, but same person. Okay. And the last one today. Knock, knock. Who's there? Whittle. Whittle who? Whittle old lady who lives in a shoe. Get it? Little old lady who lived in a shoe? With that, we've come to the end of our story today. Thank you so much for sharing the story and the jokes and the deep breathing exercise. Well, it's been wonderful having you here. Remember to subscribe and then to hit on the notification bell. And with that, it's been so great having you join in the fun today. And until next time, bye!